Kia ora koutou. I would like to welcome you to our July Operations and Monitoring meeting. Our meeting is being live streamed today, and please note that the councillors are accessing their agendas through their iPads, and I'd like to remind councillors not to have their iPads impeding the flow of their voice when they're using their microphone. And I'm going to, I have invited Mr. Paku to begin with an opening prayer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome to the councillors in the chambers and online. To all our whānau that are currently suffering from COVID, a big mihi out to them. He tuke tu whera tātou hui I tēnei ahi I te kariki kia tātou ato. E tō matamarangi, whakamoimitia mātou I hui I tēnei haora. E iua tukua mai tō aroha me tō wairu I rongi a mātou. E ahi a mātou I pānki a mātou mahi. E mahi tono hira ki a tātou hāpuri o hira taunga. Tiaki hoki a mātou whānau he noho ai te pauritanga I tēnei wā, a te whānau Bartlett. Ka nui te aroha ki a rātou. Tiaki hoki a mātou whānau he noho ai te māwiwi tanga ta mai tanga. Piki te kā, piki te ora, piki te māramatanga. Ko tēnei a mātou karanga, te kia koe pā, klotuinga tapi mo āki tono atu. Āmene.
Amen. And I would like to just acknowledge our Mayor, Sandra Hazelhurst, and our Deputy Mayor, Tanya Kerr, who are joining us today by Zoom. We have an apology from Councillor Anne Redstone, and also we have an apology from Nigel Bickle. So in the first instance, could I have a mover and seconder for those apologies, please? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Lawson, and a seconder, Councillor Watkins. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Thank you, carried. Now we move to, well, first of all, a reminder about conflicts of interest. I expect people to deal with those in the usual way. And item 4, confirmation of minutes, could I have, which have been previously circulated, could I have a mover and seconder? Thank you, Councillor Dixon. And a seconder, please. Councillor Barber. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. Now, we have, first of all, the Hastings City Business Association to present their annual report. If we can have you to come forward, please. So for those following on the agenda, this is item 6 rather than 5. Those two items have been reversed.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Bruce. Thank you for having me. Oh, where's the... Do I need to click? Do we have a presentation? Oh. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon again. Thank you very much for having me. So today's presentation, I will be running through our annual report for the 2021-2022 financial year to provide an overview, and I'll also just give you an overview of our Hastings City Business Association objectives, which obviously inform our planning, which I will run through for the year ahead. Please at any stage sing out with questions, otherwise I'm sure there'll be time allocated at the end for any further questions you may have. So last financial year, we delivered over 10 key initiatives, ranging from bumper boats, so CBD activations, to business celebration awards, and plenty in between. We were also granted 37,500 plus GIST for CBD recovery, from Hastings District Council, which we were very, very pleased to receive. It allowed us to activate the CBD even further for our members and support them across a number of key initiatives, being a spend and win campaign, Christmas promotion, window decals, and video content. Last year, as always, a key focus for us was advocating for our members, and we did so on a number of key concerns, including parking, security, and facade enhancement. And we also partnered with Council to advocate for our members, so that was really pleasing to have. Well, we had a member night, but we also worked closely with Council on a number of concerns, so members feel very appreciated with that. We delivered on our plan under budget while fostering member connections. So all in all, I'm really proud of what we were able to achieve last year. I'm sure you've all had a chance to read through the annual report document itself. If anyone has any key questions they'd like to raise, please do. But as I've said, we were able to deliver, of course, pivoting ever so slightly with COVID. A prime example being we weren't able to hold a professional services evening because we tried and we tried and we tried again. But pleasingly, we were able to create a very fun and engaging and memorable business celebration awards evening. So we're very proud across the board. Additionally to those points I've added in the report, we invested over $7,000 directly into CBD businesses through CBD vouchers and giveaways. So that was part of all our spend and win promotional activity and various different initiatives we ran. So direct investment to our business members. Many of you have seen this graph before, but I like to show it a lot. And the numbers obviously change year on year based on our data and new members coming to the CBD. But this is the breakdown of our business membership. So we represent over 450 businesses in the Hastings CBD. As you can see, 37% of those, so a fair chunk of our data, is professional services. So I like to take this graph because it obviously informs what's important to our members, what we do for the year ahead, and who we're ultimately targeting and what we do. So we're always focused on encouraging people into Hastings CBD to shop, to dine, and to experience all the greatness we have on offer. And we do this through a number of different initiatives, and that's changed year on year as the association has progressed and had to pivot and various different reasons. So we do fun activations in the CBD, ice rink and bumper boats being an example of that. So that brings people into our city centre, and then from that we push them out into the main street to various hospitality vendors, retail shops, and other experiences within our CBD. We hold networking events targeted at our professional services sector, which is obviously a fair chunk of our data. So we like to hold events biannually, and we had a very successful event last week with Alexia Hilbertadou, and we've got another event coming up in November this coming year. We run marketing promotions that drive revenue for our businesses. So that can be on a local Hastings scale, a wider regional scale, and in some instances, when we have been granted more budget, we've gone national, which is always very exciting and pleasing. And we are working on a bit of activity with Hawke's Bay Tourism for the year ahead to align with what they're currently doing in the food and wine space and how we can directly take that activity and that promotion to our CBD specifically. So yeah, impactful awareness campaigns outside the region I've also touched on. So I'll now move into our key aims for the 2022-2023 year ahead. Our aim is to promote Hastings CBD as a place to shop, dine and experience. We want to enable our members to facilitate new growth, and that can be through training, workshops, events. So we have workshop type activity on our website, but we also hold direct events around training, just a variety. With digital, obviously, it allows us to accurately measure the success of that usage. and then events allow us to get anecdotal feedback directly from our members. We advocate for them as a collective voice to council and other relevant organisations. The member night that I've touched on was obviously a very good example of that. The key concerns we hear loud and clear from our members, are around security and parking. So we've worked hard with them. They drove it, obviously, their petition, which was really pleasing, but we were able to advocate and support them in driving that home, and success, we got there in the end. Our aim is to execute mass marketing strategies to promote our members. So obviously we don't have resource to be able to work with every one of our 450 business members in terms of a social media strategy or even direct social media activity, but we can certainly go on a more mass approach, far and wide, to get better cut through for our members, and then work with any on an individual basis that reach out to us. And of course provide customised business support to members where required. And that may be anything from some business planning support, some advice around feedback if they're wanting to survey their own customer base, facade enhancement, street frontage, signage. If they can't afford a new sign, we can put them in the right direction for signage companies that we work with. So our aims will inform our annual plan for the year ahead, which I'll touch on with you now. So the key initiatives we have lined up for Q1 and Q2 of this financial year, July through to December. I've got the ice rink on there, despite it, I think there's 4 more days till that finishes up, but that's been a really big success in the city centre. So as part of that, not only do we bring people into that activation, we also wrap around activity to encourage them to shop and dine and experience in the CBD as a whole. So that's through signage at the rink, being posters on where to eat, and a CBD map of where they can explore the rest of the CBD, and also through digital advertising and social media activity to promote our businesses, and not to mention our business members themselves promoting such things like the ice rink, because it gives them a little bit of content for their own channels and drives people in to not only shop with them but also experience the ice rink. The professional services events, Alexia I touched on last week, and also Mike Allsop we're bringing in November. An updated website with an interactive CBD map, which we are very excited about, because so that will obviously just be specifically for Hastings CBD, so our 6x6 block grid, but it will feed into Eyesight's wider regional interactive map. So anyone going into Eyesight, unsure what they want to do in the region, can explore within Eyesight's interactive map and then drill down onto a more specific level around the CBD with our map. So we're not quite linked up yet, but we're in conversations with James, and that will be only a matter of time. So we're very excited about that, and it means that we can engage with our members to provide us content, to ensure that they've got all the correct information on this map. It's all run through Google Maps, so provided they're all updating their details correctly, that it all just miraculously works out online. Emma's done a huge amount of work bringing that CBD map into our zone. Changemaker video series we want to roll out, so that's really around making short, interactive and engaging videos with changemakers, so property developers, business owners that have had to pivot and do remarkable things in times of crisis, really. People that have really either done it tough but pushed through. We want to do a bit of a series showcasing changemakers. We'll be rolling that out through the course of the next few months. We are and will be extending promotion of the municipal opening and Blossom Festival to help activate the CBD. So it's around ensuring, yes, the Muni building, for example, is very exciting, and there's a lot of work in play for that block and in and around the building, but just ensuring we've got activation right throughout the CBD. So just working with council to ensure, we've got the stilt walkers right up and down the CBD block. We're encouraging our members to promote and get involved. And similarly with the Blossom Festival. Hawke's Bay Tourism, which I touched on, would like to do a Hastings specific creative, so tying into their already existing creative, pooling resource and budget for work they're already doing, but making it specific for the CBD. We're holding our AGM and member appreciation party in September in the new municipal building, which is very exciting. Street art vibrancy campaign and Christmas promotion. We haven't fleshed out our Christmas promotion as yet, but we want to do something great because Hastings is where Christmas will be this year. And just to touch on the key initiatives for January through to June in 2023. So we're bringing back the bumper boats. We'll be doing another retail shop and win campaign, an Easter promotion, which we found was a real success this year. Simple as a treasure hunt around some key public spaces within the CBD, but families, adults really got on board and loved it, got involved, and businesses appreciated it because people are exploring the CBD and exploring their stores. Marketing campaign just to, revolutionise the Discover Hastings message. Professional services dinner I've touched on. Social media takeover for members and a Bay Plaza promotion. So that really highlights our key initiatives for the plan for the year ahead. That's all from me. If anyone has any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Lucinda. Councillor Nixon.
Very vibrant report.
It's quite bright.
I did have a look in the ice skating. It looked pretty well attended the day I went there. I didn't take part. I felt it might be worse than COVID if I had a mishap.
Come on.
The free parking, because we're nearing the end of the free parking month, which I don't remember you mentioning. I think I saw it mentioned in your report, but not in any great detail. So, first question, I've got several questions all relating, so let me get through them. Firstly, was it promoted at all by the Business Association? Secondly, will there be some sort of report come back to the council? And I know we're not quite at the end, but what is your initial impression? Did it have the desired effect, or would the money be better spent on the sort of activities that you've outlined to us in the plan?
Thank you for your question. I didn't touch on the report, just given it was last financial year's report, and the free parking month obviously falls in this financial year, but all the work obviously was done last year. Mixed reviews, if I'm honest. So I'd say overall, businesses, first and foremost, I think the goodwill component was huge in terms of members feeling heard and feeling like what they're actually saying has been acted upon. So that was a win. From the feedback I'm getting from members, they're saying the public are enjoying it and it's definitely helping. So that's just anecdotal feedback I've had so far. There'll certainly be a report, so I'll be going out to a focus group of business members to actually ascertain, in terms of revenue bottom line, did it help, did it not? It's obviously a very short window to try and survey, so it needs to be taken with a grain of salt, of course. It has highlighted a few issues around staff have obviously parked in the same park prior to this free parking month previously and topped up with the app but not actually moved their vehicles, so that's highlighting some issues. So I think mixed reviews. I think it's hard to determine whether, just given it's only been a month, to see the value, yes or no, but like I said, if you ask our business members on the whole, they think it's been positive.
Thank you. Mayor Hazelhurst.
Thank you, Lucinda, for your very for that, the opportunity is that we have our magic mark with all the gear. And why wouldn't we help you make your videos, your change-making videos, instead of you employing resource to do that? So I'm just thinking of ways in which we can maximise our relationship and partnership together so you can deliver more.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sandra. So in your response to applying for funding, yes, we have capacity. If there's any way I can get extra funding, I will do it. We have capacity to get funding, like you mentioned, from creative communities, because I agree there's probably quite a good synergy in terms of street art vibrancy campaign to get additional funding for that, to then spend that budget, directly to our members.
Yes.
I think and obviously any additional funding, which I have previously proposed to council, was obviously that business attraction component as well. So I believe there's more we can be doing in that space, provided there was additional budget and funding, additional resource, sorry. So yes, absolutely, there's, with additional funding, we can be doing more with the budget we're currently using that maybe spent with, used with additional funding. And your point around the videos, absolutely, we could be leveraging council's resource with Mark. And we have done a couple of videos to date with Mark, but and council, the marketing team, actually Naomi and Vicky are just over there, hi, have certainly said we can tap into that resource. So I just budgeted the 5K because, nothing, I can't assume to be using anyone's resources, so we have to factor that in. But wherever I can get additional funding or apply for additional funding, I certainly will, where it makes sense.
Cool, thank you. And my other question is around the 2022-2023 economic development and marketing, the professional services guest speaker evenings. Am I reading this correctly that they cost $10,000 each speaker to put on?
Up to 10,000, yes. So, for example, Alexia was 6, John was 12, but we give or take depending on the speaker. So Mike's not nearly that much. It just depends on which speaker we're getting.
So with the ticket sales deducted, it costs between $6,000 and $10,000 to the association.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So that's additional budget to what we're income. Is that what you mean?
So it costs. So it says here that it costs for guest speaker evenings for two guest speaker evenings is $30,000.
Yes.
And the ticket sales is 10. So you're budgeting 10,000 per speaker.
Yeah, correct. Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you. I just wonder, in line with what everybody else is doing with professional speaker events, also the alignment there. Yes, and obviously there's some different core values and core differences in terms of retail aspects, but thinking about what the council are doing with those professional speaking events and just how that alignment can have less impact on the cost to the association. So I think it's just putting it out there, Lucinda, that that constant alignment and how we get. I mean, the members at the moment need all the support they can get post-COVID, and it is in making sure that we can assist you to get the most value for them. Kia ora. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Councillor Sears.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I can't remember what I'm doing. I'm all fogged up. Sorry. Hi, Lucinda. Thank you. Always lovely to see you. The empty buildings that we talk about every time, and I notice is in the report, has it gone up? Has it gone down? And more interestingly, we've had this conversation around other towns and other countries. Landlords have to dress windows or have to. Have we got any further with any of that, or has that been left with council?
So your first point, we're actually down, so less empty buildings, win. And what is happening in that space? So yeah, I touched on I've pitched for additional funding because obviously we're a team of two now, well, 1.75 FTE. And we've done that intentionally to bring costs down for the association, given COVID times. We just don't have the capacity and the budget to really prioritising business attraction. That's certainly not to say we're not having regular conversations with agents, and we're certainly here to support any potential vendors that get in touch with us, and similarly with current members that are considering expanding or opening up another shop or hospo joint somewhere else. We certainly will work with them very closely, and we are having a number of conversations to that effect. But in terms of, in my view, requires dedicated resource, travel, there's collateral, there's content around why would you even come to Hastings and the limitations and the pros. So I think, where is it at? In terms of an association standpoint, we're not prioritising that. So it's not a mandate in our constitution to do business attraction, so we're not driving it per se, but it's more of a reactive initiative from our perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming along and presenting. Question around, you listed some of the partnerships and stuff, and Hawke's Bay Tourism was listed as one of those. They're running a promotion at the moment, and it was a competition, and they took footage of particular places that were part of that promotion, restaurants and hospitality places. Majority of them were Havelock North and Napier, and I just was interested to know whether they had run that past the association in any way or form.
Short answer, no.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a different result. But I'm certainly starting to pick up conversations with Ben at Hawke's Bay Tourism. Yeah. They're always open to working in partnership with, be it Havelock, Napier or ourselves. But I think it's just on us to drive in terms of making sure that we're at the forefront of that activity. And so hence my desire to work with them on their spring campaign, which they're working on, kind of tapping into the wine notes piece, but aligning it to our CBD.
So had you seen the video when you surprised that Hastings as a CBD didn't feature?
No, I mean, I have seen it, sorry, but yes, we weren't involved.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So I think, the more I can work with them, the less that'll happen in terms of us not featuring.
Okay, cheers.
Because there's plenty to feature.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Lucinda. A very clear presentation and a very informative report, so thank you for that. Something that I've actually missed in the report are the comings and goings. Which new businesses have arrived in Hastings and which ones have closed? Is there any indication of that, either the numbers or the names of the firms or something like that? I think it's like the Chemist Warehouse has arrived and it's there, and that's something we should all celebrate. But what others are coming or closing?
Yes, I mean, I haven't outlined that in my report directly, but we certainly have that information. So we've had over 25 new businesses join the CBD alone, so excluding Chemist Warehouse.
I think that would be beneficial if the council could have a copy of that, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Lucinda, for your report. I really just wanted to take an opportunity to acknowledge the work that the association and members have done in some really challenging circumstances. It was really great to see the speed with which the association rolled out initiatives around around the COVID recovery period and the extra funding that council provided. It was also fantastic to firsthand see things like the bumper boats and the ice rink, and in fact, more importantly, to see online, I saw no less than 7 families that I know who are based in Napier, who specifically came over to use the ice rink. So that's really, really worked well. And it was also fantastic to see the association remain agile to the fact that the weather was constantly changing, and to move it into the old Westpac building was quite inspired, especially because you've now got the safety and late nights and weather resilience. I just want to endorse what I see within the plan that you've presented and looking forward. We all know that inflation is going to bring a huge amount of pressure to not just our community and our families within the community and fixed income houses, but households, but also our business community as a result. So I love seeing the initiatives that you've factored in there around networking, training, workshops, and mass marketing. I think that's just going to be so essential in the future. So just thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. On page 27, we have 3 recommendations. Could I have a mover and seconder? Thank you, Councillor Sholem, and a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Nixon. I'm going to put those 3 motions. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Thank you, carried, and thank you, Lucinda.
Thank you very much, Madam.
And I'm going to invite Emma to come forward to present the Havelock North Business Association report.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. For those, I think I've met most faces here now, but for those of you I haven't met, I'm Emma McRobbie, the manager of the Havelock North Business Association. Firstly, apologies, our president wanted to be up here today talking as well. Unfortunately, she's come down with norovirus, so she can stay away. Yes, all right, so I'm a little bit nervous, my first time doing a big thing like this. So hopefully you've all received our report on our previous year's annual plan. We carried out a range of initiatives. There was a lot of pivoting, changing, and just adjusting in general throughout the year as restrictions changed. But we did try our absolute best to at least deliver on everything we had planned to. If that ultimately ended up being slightly different to the original plan, we just really wanted to make sure we were providing the attraction to the CBD and also supporting our members as much as possible in another tough year. We did our Love Local promotion. That was a version of Shop Local, just encouraging people to come into the CBD and spend locally, coming straight out of that lockdown in the end of August. I'll talk more about the measure of success on the next page, actually. Other things we did, we worked with Hawke's Bay Tourism for the first time, carrying out a domestic tourism promotion. It was really successful, and we're actually looking at doing that again this year. Give Local and Holly Jolly Havelock North were Christmas time activations. Give Local was about encouraging people to spend locally at Christmas and think about where they were buying their gifts. And then Holly Jolly Havelock North was supposed to be a big kind of version of our carnival with a Christmas theme, because we'd had to pass up on that due to COVID. Unfortunately, COVID sort of reared its head again, and it sort of changed a few times and pivoted and became a bit more of a late night shopping promotion with some Christmas activations sprinkled in through there. Workshops and networking, it was really hard last year. Every time we tried to plan one, COVID would sort of pop up and we'd have to cancel and try reschedule. We did manage to carry out a few. HR ones are really popular with our members. It's quite interesting to see that's an area they find they don't have a lot of knowledge in, and they really want that face-to-face support. So we're really trying to work in that space and just make sure we're connecting them with the right people there. We did manage to carry out our business awards, which was fantastic. It was our first one in 2 years. It was a great night out, and we had some amazing applications and winners for those awards. And then our biggest piece of work for the last year was our rated levy expansion, which as of 1st of July is officially passed. So we're very excited about that and looking forward to what that means for this year's planning. We focused on our campaigns last year. We decided to put a really digital focus onto what we were doing. The board really likes that we can track the results from those sorts of campaigns and provide really clear return on investment to yourselves and to our membership, and make sure we're achieving what we set out to achieve. What can I point on here? The domestic tourism campaign, that was our biggest one of the year. So we partnered with Hawke's Bay Tourism on their autumn campaign, and what we found with that was, with their buying power, they were investing hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we could use the small amount of our budget allocated to buy into that. it also meant they turned a lot more of their content towards a Havelock North focus. So we were really impressed with that campaign. It also had a competition attached to it, which was Holiday in Havelock North, and that drove people to our website, and they literally had to go through all our business listings and create their dream holiday. So it was literally connecting people with all the businesses in Havelock North. Really successful. We had 3 winners who have now come out. They've stayed in Havelock North for a long weekends and had a fantastic time. So that has been a really, really successful campaign for us, and we will look to keep growing on that. Give Local campaign, it was a really small, really easy campaign, but had a lot of success to it and was really well supported with our membership. Support Local campaign, that came out of the economic recovery funding we received after that last lockdown. And the primary focus of that campaign was to support service-related businesses. So obviously, when you're doing your shop locals and all that sort of thing, that's really hospitality and retail focused, and getting people walking on the footpaths in the CBD. We wanted to provide some sort of support to the businesses that were in the upstairs buildings and not sort of benefiting from those promotions. We worked with one of our members, Mogul, who is a digital marketing agency, and they carried out this campaign for us. Overall, really impressed with it, really successful. The whole purpose of it was driving people to, again, our website business listings for these members, and we really focused on bringing up the rankings of the keywords. So when people were searching for Havelock North accountants and all Havelock North hairdressers and those sorts of things, we're trying to raise our profile of our website whilst supporting the member listings there and sort of directing them general website traffic. Our social media and website steadily increased over the year. Social media is sort of what we expected. Same with the website. That domestic tourism campaign really gave us a big bump on website traffic for the year, which was fantastic. Budget. So our budget for the year, I sort of just put these in here to sort of give you a breakdown, clear understanding of how sort of our resources were spent. Our budget spending breakdown was very on par with what we had budgeted for. There was a bit more gone into the promotions and events. Looking forward, we really want to expand on that business development section of our spending, and I'll talk about that later on. And then I've also popped in there an income summary by sources, just to sort of help explain where our funding's coming from. Relating back to what Sandra was saying about external funding, that is one of the things my board has directed me to look at for the future, and other ways we can bring funding into our association to carry out some more exciting like arts campaigns and things like that to add vibrancy to our CBD. Looking ahead for what we're up to for the next year, we're looking to hold bi-monthly networking. We kicked our first one for the year off back in April, bit of a slow start with the start of the year, and our members, we put out to our members asking if they wanted us to get them underway, and it was sort of, they recommended that we held off, so we held off a little bit. We've now moved them to a bi-monthly format. The other feedback we got from our members when surveying them about networking events was that they're already extremely busy, and the commitment of coming out every 4 weeks just wasn't a priority to them. We held our latest one last week, and we had a great turnout. We were up about, or literally 50% on RSVPs. We unfortunately lost about 10 people day of with COVID isolations, but it was really promising to see that strong turnout. That's just coming along for relaxed networking and drinks, and they're held at different member locations, a mix of hospitality and office sort of settings. We're looking to do a members' Christmas party this year, and for our AGM we'll also tie in with a member celebration. We unfortunately had to cancel our business awards this year, so we're looking to re-divert some of that funding to put something on for our members to get them out, celebrate the tough year, and in general just get together and have a good time. Professional services event, we are still brainstorming in this sort of area. The board hasn't exactly decided what they want to do, but we know we want to start hosting some more formal networking and things for our services members to help connect them with each other and with other members, so connecting our hospitality businesses with local accountants and website developers and those sorts of things, so make sure they're utilising local services as much as possible. And then the last one for member activity is workshops. Carrying out workshops last year, there has been such an influx of on-site workshops, online workshops, and we just found our members felt quite bombarded with so many things, and we just weren't seeing that turnout we would like to see for to being able to commit a decent spend to them. So what we have ultimately done is our business association has connected with the Chamber of Commerce, who carry out a really neat range of workshops and have high calibre hosts for them, and we will instead connect our members with those and cover the cost for them to attend. So we just felt it adds a bit more diversity to what we can offer and should reach a wider range of our membership. And then from there, it's a bit of a trial and error this year. We'll see if there's certain areas they're more interested in. We might look to bring a couple of workshops back in-house next year, but we think it's going to be really successful. I'm just sort of finalising it all at the moment to launch a big promotion to our members to really get the word out and make sure they're utilising that. Promotional activity, very similar to last year's planning. We've just ran another Shop Local campaign. It was called Enjoy Local. It was just big, bright social media advertising, big footpath stickers around our CBD. Looking to carry out another domestic tourism campaign. I've just caught up with Hawke's Bay Tourism this week, and they're really excited to be working with us again. Like Hastings will be joining in on their spring campaign this year. Looking to do another Christmas, something with Santa, Give Local. Looking to make some changes to our website, adding things like blogs and just sort of tagging a bit more into the tourism side of things on our website. We are creating a Havelock North focused tourism flyer. We found that the local eyesites, whilst they can direct people around, there's actually no real hard copy information about specific Havelock North, and what we're doing with that is just again directing people back to our website and building on the information and content we have there to help them connect with what's in our area. A new initiative is our services guide. So we're wanting to create a digital booklet of our services members. They can choose to put in exclusive offers, and it's something that we'll annually sort of update and distribute to our membership to again help them connect to each other and with what is already in the area and available to them. And lastly, we're really excited to bring back our Village Carnival after a 2-year hiatus. We're excited to get a bit of extra funding for that, so thank you to Council. And I am just in the process of getting that underway. I'd sort of forgotten how much that was going to take, but we're getting there. And we put it up online the other day and already had a tremendous sort of response to it, so we know the community is really excited to come along once again. Our budget for the year is very on par with, or very similar to our spending from last year, with the economic recovery funding and the remaining funding we had from previous years. So it's pretty standard stuff, really. If there is any questions, feel free to ask. I've sort of tried to break it down into the key sort of categories that I've touched on. Overall, our board's really excited for what's coming up, or what has happened and what's coming up. I am in the process at our AGM this year. We are looking to pick up 5 new board members, so it is going to be quite a change for our association. 5 of our 7 are stepping down, so it's going to, I think it'll be an interesting sort of restart for us, but I also think where we're at with our expansion and what the current board's done, it's quite an exciting point to sort of get a fresh perspective on things and help us sort of grow and move forward. And then having myself in the manager role for the last 2 years is sort of that continuity for us to continue with some of the work we're already doing and build on that. So thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Emma. That was excellent.
Thank you.
Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Emma. Wow, you've pulled off a lot, and again in a really trying period. So thank you. My first question is, I'm really interested to understand, with the huge success you've had in terms of the agreement from the business community to expand the targeted rate area, which brings in extra funds. Are you well enough resourced to make good use of those funds? Because I realise it's mainly just you right now that's the employee.
So maybe something I should have covered. So with this expansion in the new budget, my role, so historically I've done between 20 and 25 hours a week for the association as their sole employee, or not, I'm a contractor, sorry. So I've now increased that to 35 hours, and we actually have Mari over here, who is our new social media and administration contractor. So she's literally 3 days in, so I thought I'd bring her along to so yes, the board did recognise that to continue carrying out the work we are, we did need a bit more support, and also to support us continuing to grow. It's been a big couple of years, and we want to keep growing on the success we've had, and we just felt like we're at a bit of a standstill with what we could achieve, so yes.
I'm so thrilled to hear that, and thank you, and welcome. I'm sure you're going to find yourself very busy. I guess my other question, and this is actually through you, Madam Chair, directed at both business associations, really keen to understand what your working relationship is together, given, of course, in an ideal scenario, I'm sure, even though you're pulling from different targeted rate areas, I'm sure there'd be agreements with the business communities that we want to see Hastings, Havelock North do very well compared to Napier, and that means maybe working together a bit. And so just keen to understand what you guys are doing to coordinate.
Well, firstly, Hastings has been amazing. So when I first came on as the manager of the association, it had been a long time since Havelock North had one appointed, and there wasn't too much of a relationship there. So they've been a godsend in the sense of helping me understand what needs to be done and making sure things are done properly and with policy of the way we're supposed to do all that. But we do catch up, every couple of months for a coffee, and we keep in pretty regular communication. I call her when I'm doing presentations and be like, oh my goodness, what am I saying today? I suppose there is definitely room for us to grow in how we connect what we're doing a bit more together, definitely. But I think one of the biggest focuses of the board when I came on was to build relationships with Hastings and Chamber and other. We just think there's so many great groups in the area. We're all doing very similar things, so it is about connecting and supporting one another.
Oh, fantastic. I'm thrilled to hear that, and I'm so glad to hear that you're happy to coordinate together. And thank you, Hastings, for giving great support by the sounds of things. And I'd just like also to acknowledge the thing I've noticed, and I'm wondering if that's because, again, the two associations have been coordinating with our friends in Napier. It does seem, from my perspective, that you've been doing quite well at making sure that Havelock North and Hastings aren't running massive events at the same time as Napier, just confusing the community. You seem to be doing well at kind of staggering things. Has that been intentional?
We do meet with Napier as well, probably 2 or 3 times a year we sort of catch up with Pip. And it's really interesting to see what they're doing, and I mean, we're all trying to do the same things ultimately, so there's no point sort of doing it all at once and taking away from our own projects. So no, we've got a really good relationship with them as well.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. That's fantastic to hear.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Emma, thank you for a very clear presentation. Sorry. An informative report. I'm just wondering, how do you go about leveraging from events that happen in Havelock North, likes of Triple Peaks, Targa Rally, the Holly Hospice Trail Weekend? What do you put on specially for those particular weekends? Because there's lots of people in town.
We don't have anything specific on those weekends. We try to connect with them and help them promote their events. We make sure that our members that are tied in, whether it's accommodation, hospitality, are prepared and staffed well and know what's coming up in our area. We would love to be able to do more vibrancy and activations and things around events that are already happening. We just don't feel like at this point we have the funding to sort of go too above and beyond in that area. We try to use our social media to connect and let the community know what's going on. I myself just try to keep across what's happening and when. But yeah, I suppose there is definitely room for improvement in that area.
Particularly around Holly Hospice, I think, because last time it was really...
Yeah, well, they've really struggled with COVID, so I have connected with them over the last couple of years. And we do support them with things like we'll put flyers up, and if recently we've had a French film festival, so we put the French flag up for the month, and where I can connect and support them with promoting their events, we do try to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And actually, I'll take a seconder before we move on. Thank
I'll
you,
second
Councillor
those.
Watkins.
Right, okay.
And Councillor Harvey.
Ignoring me today.
Councillor Harvey.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for that, Emma. Again, impressive presentation, and there's been a lot of headway, and especially when it comes to that, the rate and getting that across the line. You raised the fact that 5 board members are stepping down and 2 continuing. And it's probably a question back to Debbie, but just if you have got any info around whether the Constitution is actually being looked at so that there is some form of better rotation, so, you know, on a 2-year cycle type of thing, because, there is a concern with these types of organisations that consistency doesn't carry over.
The board had tried to set that in place actually before our last AGM. Unfortunately, with COVID, we didn't actually we had one new person wanting to stand to join our board last year, so we had a whole board stay on. So we were aware that was going to be an issue coming to this cycle. But that is something, actually, at the last board meeting we had, the board has asked me to relook at our constitution and some of the rules in it because it hasn't been touched in a very long time. So piece of work I'm working on at the moment. We have, the continuity, it's an ongoing issue. It's a hard one. We obviously can't force people to volunteer. We have a couple of really great board members joining this year, and what I've found in my time on the board is generally when someone steps down, they're sort of recommending someone to step up. So hopefully we'll get some version of continuity in that.
Sorry, just one other question. There's ongoing growth in Havelock North, and there's more pending with supermarket and move of a building supplies firm and the like. Is there any common thread of what the businesses would like to see more of an input from council? So, I'm talking about CBD enhancements, traffic flow, parking. What would you see as being the major concern?
CBD enhancement, so I came in about 6-ish weeks ago now when we talked about annual plan points and things like that, and prior to that we'd sort of put out to members if they had any thoughts, if they wanted any submission made and that sort of thing, and CBD enhancements was a big one. As we'd put in our plan, everyone really liked the idea of sort of doing a hospitality upgrade sort of thing, similar to what's happened in the Hastings End down here. Parking is a huge one. We're aware there's not really many places to expand on Havelock North parking. The Anderson Park car park was great to get done and get that carried out. And then I actually had a meeting with one of our members. His business is on the corner of Donnelly and Cooper Street the other day, and while he's excited for the supermarket to move and he thinks that the traffic flow will be quite good for his business, he is really concerned with how the increase in the traffic is going to affect the parking to his business. It's already nearly non-existent, and he doesn't know he just really doesn't know what he's going to do. He was like, I don't know, it's a mechanics business, so it's like, I have cars on the side of the road, I've got limited space on my property. If there's already more traffic coming, what's going to happen? And I said to him I needed to connect. I was actually going to talk to you, Damon, about that. And then also connect with foodstuffs and sort of talk about what they're doing. So I was sure that council had sort of put some sort of plans in place to make sure there was contingencies for that sort of thing.
Right, we had a mover and seconder for those 3 recommendations on page 9. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Thank you, carried, and thank you, Emma. Now, just before we move to item 7, we've had confirmation in writing that we did, in fact, receive apologies from councillors Ollie and O'Keefe. And, in fact, I'll just get a mover and seconder that we tack those onto our other. Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Thank you, Councillor Watkins. And all those in favour, please say aye. So, moving now on to item 7, our performance and monitoring report, and Bruce is going to speak to that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what we'll do, we'll roll through the presentation that we have, which again is aligned with the 8 strategic priorities of councils as detailed in our long-term plan. Please just pipe in with any questions that you may have as we work our way through it. And I'll have Craig, Rebecca to here to help answer any questions or provide any additional detail to the different areas if required. So this presentation today is more about a sort of a year in wrap rather than just looking at the last quarter. So it has been a really good year for council when it comes to getting recognition for the activities that it's been undertaking and the projects that it has. And most recently, last week, receiving a highly commended for its Flaxmere's Time at the Local Government New Zealand Awards. That's on top of that same project around Flaxmere's Time winning the Becker Award for Placemaking at the Taituara Awards earlier this year, and the Datacom Award for Transforming Service Delivery with the digital twinning activity that John Jang pulled together for the Toi Toi Hawke's Bay Arts and Events Centre and the Opera House in particular at this point in time. Right at the beginning of this financial year, Council had a flurry of awards at the local government conference around recognition around the Hastings Place-Based Housing Plan and the Toi Toi Hawke's Bay Arts and Events Centre as well, and they've been widely canvassed around this table, as well as receiving highly commended for the Mahi for Youth program that the Community Wellbeing team pulls together. And once again, most beautiful small city. In regards to the economic powerhouse, this is again a conversation that's been well traversed around the table and with economic commentators. But just to highlight, I guess, the situation that we're operating in, Hastings' economy is growing and grew at 6.1% to the 12 months to March, and consumer spending was up 8.6% to March as well. And Hawke's Bay is the strongest economy in the country over the past year, and with Hastings being a leading driver of that local growth. And that was recently reflected in a really positive news article last weekend. We're experiencing sustained residential and non-residential building consent growth over the past year. It's showing signs of slowing down a wee bit, but still at very high levels. And that's flowing through into significant activity in our industrial and commercial zones. We have things like the Turners and Growers, the TNG pack house in Whakatū, and the two-stage development of Kaweka Health and Hastings, both sort of $100 million projects. With all of that positivity, there are constraints within our economy as well, which are impacting on us as an organisation, on our contractors, our suppliers, and other sectors. And really, things like the low unemployment rate are putting extreme pressure on the job market, and a lot of organisations are holding high levels of job vacancies, much higher than they would have normally in the past. And Hastings District Council as an organisation is no exception to that as well. Madam Chair, would you like to just take questions as they arise?
Yes, Councillor Sears.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. So, Bruce, in the section where we look at residential consents, which quite a lot down on last year, which I'm sure is a relief for the team, just to check in, there wasn't any metrics there around turnaround time or consents or percentages of consents turned around in that time. First question. Second, it comes up a little bit later around staff and planning, so wondering also, first question's on time and percentages, and second on if the positions have been filled and if it's at full staff capacity in that department.
So in the building area, so if it's not in the report, we'll get that for you. Yes, it's a key.
I couldn't find it.
Key metric that we should be reporting to you on. So apologies if it's not included this time. Regarding whether that team is operating at full capacity, there's a continual sort of movement of staff in that sector, and the team are constantly working to maintain staff levels. So I don't think John's operated at a full complement of staff in that area for a while, but it's constant work in progress.
Thank you, Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Following up on Councillor Sears' comment, I think the thing that would be really helpful for council to understand is understand there's huge demand out there for the people with the necessary skills to fully staff this area. I think the thing that's really critical for council to understand is whether or not we have resourced in terms of budget that area of council well enough to ensure that we can remain competitive in the environment. Because I am conscious that the very graph we've got on screen right now was presented by an economist who talked to us about the fact that actually the almighty dollar is speaking at the moment in recruiting space. And so just trying to understand whether or not council has realistically budgeted for that particular area to ensure that we can not only retain but attract the necessary staff.
I think there is sufficient budget in that area. It's one of those things we need to ensure that we have sufficient man hours available, and that's one of those activities where a lot of the costs incurred are on charged and recovered through the users. So, and management are very cognizant of the supply and demand issues in that area.
And can I just acknowledge as well, thank you for the part of the overall huge report that we get, and thank you, it's wonderful. I do enjoy reading it, where it says workload management. I can see there's a number of creative things being used there to try and make sure that we are as on top of things as possible. So I do want to take the moment to acknowledge that, and thank you for including that.
And just to Councillor Sear's question, page 16 of the report gives some metrics around building consent activity.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, I have seen that, but I'm specifically, it's quite difficult to read. It's specifically around residential housing consents. So it's kind of domestic people doing residential work, and how many of those are making it in that 80%? Because this graph is, I think, a collection of the whole lot here. So what I'm trying to understand for when someone says to me, I can't believe I've been waiting 60 or 90 days for my house consent, that's quite a simple deck or whatever it is, how many of those are actually getting done in 20 days and how many are over? And we could even include a metrics around they didn't make it because plans weren't suitable, etc., etc. There could just be a picture around that, because for most of our ratepayers, it's really around their domestic building consent and just trying to get small additions and things done. So that's the answer I'd like to be able to give constituents.
Thank you for that, Councillor Sears. And it's that your query is entirely in keeping with our goal here, which is to provide our councillors with top quality information so that when they're approached by constituents, they have the answers at their fingertips. And that suggestion around reporting on those dimensions would be really helpful. So thank you.
And through you, Madam Chair, we'll take that as an action and an improvement item for this report going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just, I think this is the appropriate part to bring this up. The Innovative Food Hub is not mentioned anywhere, and unfortunately it's very disappointing what's the procedure with that. But it's an isolated one as far as Hastings District Council is concerned, and it's a deeming feature. We're a partner in that. What's the plan going forward? Because it's essential that we actually get it underway. And I know it's not our fault, I know it's others' fault, but we've got to have a plan in front of us.
Probably something, unless Mr Cameron can advise, I think it's one of those things we might have to come back to with more detail, but I know they are progressing with the design, and there was, whether that's to a standard that's satisfactory or not at this point in time, I'm not sure, but it probably is timely that there's a report.
I wouldn't say that was a progressive design.
Have you got anything to add, Mr Cameron?
Yes, I guess it's probably a bit outside the scope of this reporting, because it's not really on council business. It's a separate, well, it's not a CCO, but it's a separate entity of which we're a shareholder. So it's more appropriate that we bring in the directors of Food East, which I think's on the cards to speak to council as a shareholder.
Accept that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And through you, Madam Chair, that's likely to happen at the next Ops and Monitoring meeting as on their normal reporting cycle with their annual report. So just continuing with the economic powerhouse strategic priority theme, just throughout the year, the roundabout construction is completed at Henderson Road Maraakakaho and Iron Gate roads to support those industrial parks. Significant pieces of work. There's a wide range of job creation and business support activities that council was involved in, whether that be our focus on business breakfast series, the Rebel Business School, Sustainable is Attainable, Edmund Hillary Foundation and Fellows, and the Building Futures program. So a large number of activities that council's involved in there over the year, and really, just to, I guess, remind everyone of the environment that we're working in. Not that you need much reminding around, the impacts that COVID has happened to supply chain and just the difficulties that that's causing to get business done. And that, again, like I said earlier, not just something that's impacting on Hastings District Council, but also impacting a lot of our contractors and suppliers and those out there in the economy more generally. So in regards to homes for our people, during the year the Talbot Street housing development infrastructure was completed and whānau started moving into those new social houses. Infrastructure works are advancing on the sites of 244 Flaxmere Avenue, on Swansea Road, which is the Flaxmere Town Centre, and 72 Carnarvon Drive, formerly referenced as the Gumtree block. So that's well progressing now. The medium density housing strategy review was completed. Investigations into implementing recommendations have begun. And the Hastings place-based housing partners house building, lots of progress up to date on that as well, with 145 complete, another 154 under construction, and infrastructure underway for another 135, and then another 65 in feasibility design and planning. So again, a lot of activity going on. Now, the Hastings Residential Intensification Design Guide has been well received by the sector and is being utilised by house builders, developers and architects. And there's been steady progress over the year on our greenfields residential developments, albeit with some delays, and they've been well canvassed around this table over previous months. The Future Growth Unit has been established to manage the need for housing while protecting our fertile Heretaunga Plains soils. So again, in the housing for our people space, a lot of activity over the year. In regards to getting around, there were some constraints early in the financial year with approvals coming through from our funding partner at Whakatahi. But despite that, a lot of progress made on some significant projects, with the Mahu Road, Chatham Road roundabout completed, the quite fantastic Tarara Reserve Boardwalk was completed during the year, and the design for the next phase of the Chambers car park is now well underway. The Middle Road shared path construction is almost there, 99% complete, and all of our streetlights across Hastings CBD, Hastings City, have been converted to LED for greater efficiency. So that's a significant milestone for that team. And there's been a steady program of road safety improvements and road renewals throughout the rural and urban road network.
We have a question from Mayor Hazelhurst.
Sandra, can you put your mic on, please?
That'll be helpful. Sorry, through you, Madam Chair, talking to myself. Through you, Madam Chair, I wonder if I just want to speak on Councillor Dixon's comments about Food East. Could I take an action, please, through you, Mr. Allen, that we ask all the shareholders and the directors of Food East to come and present to us their updated plans with the other shareholders, not just us. So I think it's timely now to look at the future and the progress and where we're tracking. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nixon.
Thanks. Councillor C has raised the issue of hold-ups and I'm going back one, sorry, in housing consents. But we hear a lot about jib shortages causing massive problems. I'm not just talking about weeks, but sometimes half a year or so. Are we being greatly affected or just slightly affected? Where do we stand on this issue? Because it's part of the slowdown in building trade, and that's what actually concerns me.
I can answer what's going to happen in the future. As I listened to Parliament yesterday and discovered that 100 container loads of jib are on their way here, about to be delivered plasterboard.
Yeah.
And that they have approved 3 parallel products that can be used in place of jib board. So that will speed things up greatly.
Yeah, I did see that, and so I was aware of that one, but I'm just thinking, because there was a slowdown, I can't remember whether somebody mentioned it earlier, showing up in the numbers. I just wonder, is that a demand issue, or is it actually that there's a problem supplying houses to completion so that they can be occupied?
There is a problem in supplying houses to completion, and I think a good indication of that is that we're currently leasing a portion of our old Briscoe's building to Hutchinson's to store carpet while they wait for houses to be completed so they can have the carpet installed. So there is that knock-on effect of the slowdown of access to jib or plasterboard. And the implication that it has on the completion of those houses. So I think, Mr. Thu, I'm not too sure if we had any really significant impacts on our own business and the works that we're doing, but certainly we're seeing it out there in the building sector.
Through you, Madam Chair, in terms of materiality, plasterboard's probably, it's there, but we've had bigger ones, and Mr. Hanson's talked to you about anything that we bring in overseas. You would have seen in the report our 2,000 smart meters that we ordered months and months and months ago have finally arrived in the country. We're now starting to put them in, but that's like a 9 or 10 months from order, 6 months on a boat going around the world to get off on port. So it can be the smallest thing, and I see Napier just releasing with their work program some of their water upgrades. They're waiting for microchips or SIM cards to turn up that they'll. So with these projects, it can be the smallest, cheapest components that can delay it, and we just got to keep actively. And we're most of our projects now we're pre-ordering materials to try and deal with those lead time issues.
The reason I'm sort of asking about plasterboard in particular is that a house is probably 90% or 80% finished, and then you can't put wallboard up, and I just wonder if it shouldn't be mentioned as part of the explanation as to why there seemed to be a bit of a slowdown, when in fact there may not be a slowdown. It might just be an inability to complete. It hopefully will stop with this umpteen containers, shiploads of stuff coming into the country. But if it doesn't, could that just be highlighted in the next report if it's still a problem? And if it isn't, well, it doesn't have to be.
Thank you. Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Chair. One comment and one question, please. My comment relates to lighting in the mall, in the CBD. And you mentioned here on page 21, efficient streets and lighting. The lighting in the mall is substandard. It's dark. You certainly wouldn't want to walk through it later in the evening. I mean, we have light poles up there, and you can put LEDs in to sort of to dim everything down. But I think for safety and for promoting the CBD, you actually want lights turned up as high as they can jolly go and floodlight the place, and then it looks welcoming. But I think that's a comment that I make. It's many people have mentioned it to me. I think we need to look at that. My question relates to, and Mr. Thu, you might be able to help me here. I'd like, and I hope for other councillors to understand, the step-by-step process when somebody rings into the front counter and says, there's a pothole developing in my street. Can you take me through the step-by-step process of what happens?
Through you, Madam Chair. Perhaps just thank you for your comment, one. I'll talk to Marius and the team to see if we've taken lux readings. Sorry,
Craig, I can't hear you with a mask on, I'm sorry.
So through you, Madam Chair. thank you for your first comment. I will talk to Marius to see if we can get some lux readings taken in the mall, because the recent survey is we have a truck that drives around on all the streets to check that they meet the street levels, but that truck wouldn't drive through the mall. So I'll just get to make sure they check the lux readings on that one.
Thank you.
I'm not sure I'm best placed to talk through every little step because I'm not operationally involved in that. But if a call comes through, one of the members of the customer support team will take that call. They have a knowledge base of what to do. If it's a pothole call will then get lodged. They'll check to see if there's already a comment against it, and then it'll get logged into one of the two maintenance contracts. So if it's in the rural area, it'll go on to Fulton Hogan's, and if it's in the urban area, it'll go to Downers as a job. Yep. They will then work through programming those repairs. Yep. And some of the potholes they'll get from just inspections of our team and their own. That job gets logged, they collate up all those works, and depending on the severity, it has a different time frame to respond to. Probably beyond that, and then Adam and Tim monitor, and the cadets helping them monitor through performance. Probably anything more detailed than that, I'd need to get Adam to talk to you more directly.
Okay, so look, I'll tell you the background to my question. There are a lot of potholes in Hastings that they are not fixed properly. The quality control is not there, and contractors are going back twice and 3 times to fix them. Now my question is, when the first call comes in on the original pothole, goes through our call centre, sent to a contractor to fix it, and I guess HDC get a bill. Is that correct? I don't think they'll be doing it for nothing.
So I just need to talk to Adam to work out whether that's in a lump sum. I believe we're paying on a charger. I do need to just clarify. So at this time of year, all pothole fixes are temporary fixes where we put it in because you cannot do the repair in winter time. You'll never permanently fix a pothole at this time of year. Okay. And this time of year when it's raining and you have anywhere where there's rutting, and a case in point is a section on Pakawai Road by Elwood Road where there's a whole run of potholes in where the traffic lane is. If we had our full amount of funding from Waka Kotahi, we would be rebuilding that piece of road because actually it's...
Craig, I'm not just talking about winter, I'm talking across the board. My issue is, we get the contractor to fix it, and a month or 2 later it breaks up again. Somebody else rings into the counter and says there's a pothole. And so what do? We ring the contractor and he goes and fixes it up again. Are we paying for work twice, maybe 3 times? Who actually checks and monitors that?
So through you, Madam Chair, if there is a repeat piece of work, Adam and the team, because the systems where all those jobs are logged, it sort of maps them all and has their location. If there's a repeat piece of work and it's to fix, if it was to fix a repair that should have lasted, we won't pay the second time round. And so Adam and the team would manage through that. But if you've got exact examples, they're really useful to make sure that the team aren't being missed, because this time of year, obviously, we get lots of these. With it raining.
I just want to make sure the process that we monitor that, please, because all round I see repeat repairs being done, and I just want to make sure that somebody is actually following those through and we're not paying twice.
Yeah, so there are maintenance periods, and Adam and the team, I can't guarantee that every single one doesn't get caught. To the point where we've even had construction jobs, if something didn't work, they're brought back to remedy it at contractor cost. Ideally, though, if it's a permanent repair, we don't want to go back even if they're paying for it, because it interrupts our community and people using the road.
Thank you, carry on.
So with our rural living strategic priority, work has continued throughout the year on the bridge strengthening program, with the Rissington Bridge completed this year, and investigations are now complete on 74 bridges throughout the network. There's been a significant investment in rural road and pavement resealing this year, and most of the remedial works for the March storm event are nearly completed. And with the added financial assistance from central government, we've had a large amount of rural hall maintenance work completed over the past year, more than we would have been able to do by ourselves without that level of funding support. Now, with our natural treasures, obviously a big focus in this strategic priority area is around our three waters. And obviously throughout this financial year, there's been a big focus on the Frimley Water Storage and Treatment Facility, which is very, very nearly at completion. And obviously Waiaraha, just out the back here, the water storage reservoir, one is complete, one's under construction, and the treatment plant groundworks have commenced. So lots of activity out there, with the Waiaraha Education Building consented now as well. We have 6 small community water treatment plants in full production and 2 more underway, so that's happened during the year. There's been catch pit litter traps with filters to remove pollutants installed at Lowe's Pit to improve that stormwater discharge. And over the financial year, waste going to the Omananui landfill actually decreased by 15,800 tonnes, which is a significant implication to that business activity and a good thing. So waste management and minimisation initiatives have continued to be progressed throughout the year.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you. I just, on this slide and the previous slide, firstly, a huge shout out to the staff involved in the rural halls and the marae maintenance funding. It's made a huge difference to many of our communities, followed up with those small hall sessions. A question regarding, actually an action point, if I may. A community meeting recently held in Te Pahui acknowledged that we don't have anybody within the community trained to operate the Te Pahui water supply, which is fine, except in an emergency. So an action point, if I may, is to link with appropriate people in the community to give them a basic understanding of what needs to be done. But my second question is this last point regarding waste minimisation reduced to the landfill. I also noticed that we have a reducing trend going into recycling. And I just wasn't sure if there's any data around why our recycling has reduced over the last 3 months.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd need to follow that up and send it out to councillors after just talking to Angela. I'd also just be conscious just around the reduced tonnage being due to waste minimisation, because some of that economic slowdown was built because some of the waste streams are still full bore, but as people start reduce their discretionary spend, we see indications at the landfill of less throwaway. So we're just doing some work at the moment to understand which part of the waste streams have reduced. One of the ones is special waste, which is around less buildings coming down, and obviously with Napier starting their demolition, depending on how much they can divert. But in the previous year, we had the whole fire at the railway station here, which was a huge quantity in last year's high result. So I wouldn't take the reduction of 1,580 as a great win for our waste minimisation stages at this stage. But to your question, Councillor Kerr, I'll get Angela to do some work just to do that breakdown. I can tell councillors, and we'll report it to the Waste Futures Committee and its future incarnates over time, is we're currently pulling together the suburb by suburb statistics for every rubbish and recycling truck as they drive around, so we can then start to identify, not to the household level at this point, but at least if the recycling truck's driven around these streets of Arkina, what's the level of participation, what is the tonnages, so we can actually, and the point of that is so we can target our education to fit with each local context. So you have some streets where you have people who don't put any rubbish out because they're awesome recyclers. you have some streets that are putting recycling out because they're disengaged and unaware, and so they'll be using that information to help develop their education and awareness programs. Sorry, just if I may, Madam Chair, Councillor Kerr, I'd probably be good to have it. I wasn't at the Te Pahui meeting. I'd like to pick up the conversation because it's around what a member of the community is permitted to do on that supply now. No one in that community would be trained to play with the drinking water treatment plant, and nor should they. But I'd just pick up around what that means and how we might interact with that community. The other one I just want to point out, Bruce highlighted it for the general community, but Three Waters and building is where we've seen the biggest cost increases in terms of material supply, biggest delays and part of that is the heating of the system. The Three Waters has had a lot of money thrown at it from central government, and that's created a lot of heat on a resourcing side, on a contracting side, on a material supply side. So, and that we're not seeing that reducing for a long time, and we're just doing some work that we'll report back to you a little bit later in the year, just around our revaluation, which is seeing, which reflects a significant increase, which will flow through to next council's consideration of depreciation charges and stuff. Also, just want to note, it's not caught out in the slide, it is talked about in the report from a compliance side. You're all aware our drinking water fully complies with bacteriological standards, but we will continue to not comply with the protozoa standards until we finish our treatment works. And we've also previously talked about we will have stormwater non-compliances from some of those spills. And obviously in the report notes, we had the wastewater overflow near Whakatū on State Highway 51, which creates a non-compliance to our consent condition. I haven't been away sick for 3 weeks. I haven't had a chance to talk, have a catch up with independent reviewer, but we'll be working through any potential improvements that we can make to mitigate the chances of those things happening. There's one other, if I may, the discussion on LEDs. Part of the business case for the LEDs, not only, yes, the environmental impact with less electricity use, less consumption. Initially, there was to be a significant financial gain from lower power bills. However, our lines provider has upped all the base fees, so therefore actually there is virtually no, if not an increase in cost, because they just change how we get charged.
Are you able also, Mr. Hugh, to just quickly talk us through the implications for your department of the announcement by the Director of Health yesterday about compulsory fluoridation of water supply?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. So the directive we got from the Director General of Health yesterday is to the reintroduction of fluoride to the main urban supply, so the supply that feeds Hastings, Havelock, North, Bridgebar, Pakipak and Flaxmere. Council is already committed to doing that as soon as Waiaraha is completed. The date they have given us is the 30th of June 2023, which fits in with the date that we provided them that allowed our treatment upgrades to be completed. We also indicated to them it would be useful if they could send us some money to help us with the upgrade at Wilson Road to add fluoride. We'd put on hold any upgrades until we'd work through the updated safe handling requirements, and to make sure, however we were dosing and treating it, it aligned to the designs that we put in place for Frimley and Waiaraha. So we've in our request, our initial request was in the order of 260,000 to 270,000 of capital costs from them. We haven't got the details yet from DIA or Ministry of Health around what we have to do for funding, and we've also highlighted it would like something in the order of $100,000 a year to pay the operational costs to dose fluoride. We'll do a review just to make sure that that cost request is what we need and not $1 less.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Sears.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just picking up on both points from Councillor Kerr, the recycling, just really backing up Craig. It's very, very complicated to get the metrics because they're skewed by so many aspects. But what I do want to say is the Waste Futures Committee is a brilliant committee, by the way, just saying. You know, a big push in our waste minimisation is actually to get people out of recycling as well, that we're actually moving to reusable. So in actual fact, a reduction in recycling also is a positive, yeah. We don't know exactly the reason, but what I would say is that that committee does a huge amount of work trying to understand those metrics, and they are difficult. So picking up that. But secondly, I think Councillor Kerr brings up something really important around our small water supplies, and I'm thinking, of course, of Waimarama. In a big disaster where we are cut off and there's no services, the functioning of our small water treatment plants is probably something we do need to consider in our emergency plans, whether or not anyone could be trained in any way or at least understand enough, because that could be one of our most significant aspects, particularly in my area. So I think it's something that would be worth perhaps meeting with separately about.
Thank you for that.
Probably just as some reassurance for committee members, as part of, particularly in drinking water, but obviously for Waipariki, there's a wastewater system as well. As part of the water safety plan and the emergency response, there's a whole pile of elements put in place, and plants, depending on the nature of the disaster and the things that get broken, so you can't plan every situation. The plants can be, for many things, fully operable remotely. And the whole point of storage is actually keeping enough storage so the plant can get switched off. And Waimarama, as a case in point, actually you can have it off for quite a while, particularly if people reduce use. So the worst thing that would, and so that's the information to the community around, if we've got that, please don't go and wash stuff down. Let's keep the water for drink safely, but we can have those conversations.
Thank you. Question from Mayor Hazelhurst.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Question for you, Craig. Just in terms of going back to the fluoridation directive, will you be working with the Ministry of Health to understand if both fluoride and chlorination can come out of our drinking water stations across the district?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Our intention
Great.
is to do
Thank
that
you.
way. We just need to get confirmation we're allowed to supply non-fluoridated water in the Hastings urban area. That's the key check. We think we should be able to, because that would be pretty draconian for them to not allow. So the team have plans to carry on providing at least the library tap in a way, because you don't remove fluoride by carbon filter.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I'm just interested to know, with the Three Waters National Transition Unit and the request for information, I just want to understand more fully, and I see it's also on our risk register, what are the implications in terms of staff time and how that might impact on our work program or delivery of services? If that could be enlarged on, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair. At the moment, we're trying to keep the operational and BAU staff as separated as we can from the information requirements, and bringing on Ms. Price as our transition manager is a key part of that strategy. You will all be aware of the recent announcement from DIA or the Minister around funding to help fund transition costs, and we're to the order of 870,000. What we've been doing is in the BAU work, we've gone through a session with the wider Three Waters team just to understand all the improvement items that they were progressing, and being pretty ruthless around going, well, actually, will this give us value before it changes? Does it have the potential to be changed and thrown out? And therefore, to try and unload work that we don't see as significantly a priority for them to be investing time on, just to reduce their workloads. The challenge that we're working through, and it's discussions that the NTTC chief executives and the Hawke's Bay chief executives and my peers from around Hawke's Bay and in the region, is a little bit more of a formal discussion with the NTU itself around how their work priorities fit with our work priorities and our risks, and just to make sure that their requests are actually valuable and required for the transition itself. There was a risk early on of a number of things that they were wanting information for, or potentially will want information for coming, that we don't think will have any value at all for day one, and therefore, actually, let's not boil the water, to use Nigel's analogy, if it's not going to make a cup of tea. So we're doing as much work as we can to manage and protect that. Moving forward, it's just something we've just got to keep an eye on and manage every day. I guess the other piece in terms of staff wellbeing is the NTU on Friday released the staff transition guidelines. So during the start of this meeting, Bronwyn and Ms Price were talking to the Three Waters team and people who provide support to it. We've got a 1 month period in which the staff individually, as a team and as an organisation around those transition guides, but that goes to around the job guarantees, the terms and conditions, proximity working, just to try and make sure that they feel calm, that there's future, they don't need to run away and change. Recruiting staff in Three Waters was difficult before this, it's even more difficult, and unfortunately I've just lost two. One will go to Wellington Water, so we'll eventually get back. And I'll look to have allegiances with Wellington Water so we stay aligned, and one's following her partner to the UK, and we're doing some work to see if she can work remotely from the UK for a short period. So it's a challenging and it is a high risk area that will require us to actively monitor, and Ms Price and myself, that's a key focus of our time actually.
Okay, thank you. That's a really full answer, and just to acknowledge all those pressures that you're under. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nixon.
I don't want to increase the pressures. This is a big report. There's so much in it, and it's sometimes hard to know when to ask a specific question. But anyway, it's not about Warboard. I was also mystified about the waste collection, and I serve on both the waste minimisation and landfill committees, and I thought I understood a little better than I feel that I do. As to exactly why these trends exist, and I wondered if it's possible some of it is just the number of pickup days there are in a month, and if there is, maybe we should have some sort of correction so that we don't jump to conclusions that are not justified. Because I matched what's happening here and also the reduction in material going through the landfill, and I haven't done a comparison, but it struck me that there might be just almost a direct comparison between everything's dropping. If times are getting tougher, people might just be spending less and wasting less. So it's a comment as much as a question, but you can answer it if you have a good answer. I have one more question after this.
So through you, Madam Chair, in terms of the landfill quantities, because I was interested after the landfill committee as well, and the team sent me at the moment it doesn't look like we typically see before an economic dropout.
Yeah.
But there are particular types of waste that are down, and one big change from last year, as I said, is the fire, or the huge tonnage that come out of post that fire. And as I said before, I'll follow up with our waste minimisation team on the recycling dropping. One of the unfortunate parts of being away for 3 weeks, I would have seen that as we're pulling the report together, and I've done that rational check as well. So we'll talk to Angela and the team, and we'll get some feedback out to councillors on that.
The second issue, and it's not to do with waste issues, and perhaps I should have brought up when Kevin was talking about the roads. I'm probably the most prolific reporter of water leaks around the council table, because I get out on my bike and I see them all the time. And so, I mean, they come in many shapes and forms. There was one in Lindsay Street that leaked for weeks, and I reported it at least 3, if not 4 times. But it turned out eventually that it was coming off the property, not off the street. So that's one example. Then in Chambers Street, there was a whole series of water leaks up there in sort of succession. It's almost as though if we fix one, it causes the next one. I'm not saying that that is the case. But the thing is, when you report in, they actually don't know what's happening. So you don't know whether you should just ring again and say, look, you haven't fixed it, or whether something's actually happening. And do we not have a system that somehow people are told, yes, it's going to be fixed in a week, a day, it's not seen as urgent? Because I think we just leave everybody in limbo, and either they get sick of reporting or they keep reporting, and probably both are not the right answer.
Madam Chair, a couple of pieces in there. You're right. I guess first of all, start off, last time I looked in the reporting is our overall leaks of our infrastructure is reducing, which is a good positive sign. And we'll see that continue to do so with policy now where we're completely replacing any metal connections. So if they're a metal pipe, rather than doing a repair and then, it's failed twice or 3 times, replace it. Basically, everyone's replaced as we go. And we've got a program which talks about in the report of replacing, moving across to plastic.
Can I just stop you there for a minute, Craig? I mean, because you've told me this part before, so that's not so much new. It is the appearance that nothing seems to actually happen with the leaks. And the one I should have looked at my notes, in Market Street, there was a humongous leak, so just along from the Co-op Bank. I mean, this was really running down, and that's been happening. I reckon it's been there for a month, and it was there when I went in on Monday. I didn't report it again because I just sometimes feel I shouldn't be ringing up all the time.
Could we take this conversation offline?
Yeah, okay. So probably just I wasn't trying to get in the specifics, but rather,
yeah. So I guess just lifting it out of the weeds. One of the items that I do want to come back to council at some stage is actually getting a direct policy approach for private leaks, because we have massive amount of problems dealing with private leaks, to give the team some powers just to get in. If the private property isn't going to fix it, we'll go in and fix it, and we will bill their title, we'll bill the property for them to fix their private leak, rather than the team sending letters looking to fix it. So that's the Lindsay. Joel Road last year went for months. I'm also talking to the team around how we might be able to put up on the website around, so you can actually see progress. Whether, and if it's logged as a private, to actually log it as a private, whereas at the moment we haven't been, the team manage it, but it's not logged as one of our jobs. The other part that we wanted to get to, so and there was one case in point over Gary Street, Oliphant Road, Gary Street, and it's about providing the information to explain that actually to do that leak we needed to shut the system down, and we needed equipment, so therefore rather than taking a day or two, this one was going to take 4 weeks, and it's how we do that look back, and just working through how we do that efficiently, because there's many people taking the calls who are not directly connected to the work. So there are areas of custom improvement we are looking at the moment.
Thank you. Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it's been a busy year in the Hastings Alive strategic priority area, and obviously one of the biggest amongst all of that is the redevelopment of the municipal building, which right at the very end of the financial year came to completion. So we have our opening celebration weekend on August the 6th and 7th. Our tenants have moved in, all but one, and Mr. Henley should be about a month away, I think, from opening his wine bar as well. So that's the combination of 8 years of consultation, planning, design, construction, negotiations, and the like. So you'll receive a project wrap-up report on that next week at council meeting. Throughout the year, there's been a number of streetscape upgrades within the CBD, notably the Hiratonga Street 300 East block, which is the municipal building block. There's hospitality areas on East 100 and West 300 blocks have been completed during the year. There was 3 new facade enhancements completed in Queen Street, which looked fantastic. Obviously a private development, but throughout the year, the Tribune development progressed really well and looks fantastic as well. The museum storage and research facility is in its detailed design phase, and we're looking at that phase being completed in the middle or second half of August, and that will get us to a point where we'll be lodging for building consent. And throughout the year, a number of activities in the city centre, obviously working with the Hastings City Business Association, who you heard from earlier, things like mini golf, music events, and that successful Hop into Easter event that Lucinda talked about as well. You considered a couple of months ago the COVID Recovery Action Plan, so that's been launched following your approval, looking at to help revitalise the city centre. And obviously throughout that time, near the end of this financial year, we had the Matariki Festival planning as well underway for delivery of the Apple project. The project mapping equipment that you approved has been purchased and is on its way as well. There's been decisions made around enhancing our CCTV network. A lot of that is now in sort of implementation phase, so we'll have increased coverage through King Street, Queen Street, and down at Stortford Lodge, and it's coming soon. And the Christmas festival lighting and pop-up installations occurred last year and will be bigger and brighter and better this coming year.
Councillor Sears.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and apologies for going backwards. I got distracted by Simon's puddles. But I'm back to water. I'm really sorry, it was an important question for me. You note in the water report that the Waioraha Education Building consent has been issued and that the work is going to start. Apologies if I missed something, but the last we saw of the Education Centre design, Mr. Allen, was the concept design, in which I raised quite a number of questions around the Eco District Committee's building strategy and the alignment with that and how important that was going to be. And I was expecting to see further details of that. So I may have missed it, did I? Because now it's gone for consent and I don't believe that it came back to us since that concept design.
Not close enough to that project either to know exactly what you've been told, but we can follow up for you.
We had a workshop where it was presented and we specifically asked around that, and actually I did also make contact offline about that as well. So I was really surprised to see it. Does anyone remember, was there something I missed? Not that anyone's remembering, okay. So yeah, I'm flagging, I'm really concerned there's a consent issued for that, and those questions I raised certainly haven't been answered to me.
Noted, we'll follow up.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just an update on the Apple project, if I may. They're all due for delivery this coming Sunday. Be distributed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, right around Hastings and Havelock North and Flaxmere. So that's an update.
Thank you for that. Mr. Allen.
And with the pathways for our people, and the business can chime in if there's anything additional here. But during the year, we had the Serve the Bay event, which was to support our hospitality industry. We had pop-up information events held to support Apple and harvest worker needs as well. The Mahi for Youth Employer Connects Support Building Futures training program continued. And the youth strategy is being finalised and will be presented to you shortly. There are the single and multi-year grants totalling approximately $300,000 allocated to a wide spectrum of community groups throughout the year as well as an ongoing activity. And the last category around enhancing where we live. So again, the last category being enhancing where we live. Again, another busy year for this in this strategic priority area. A large number of events held at Toi Toi, Hawke's Bay Arts and Events Centre, despite the COVID restrictions that we've experienced this financial year. And when we look at the forward bookings that the Toi Toi team are managing, is certainly a full book moving forward. And that's with the addition of all the spaces that now come available due to the municipal building being available for the community to hire. The Hastings City Art Gallery visitor numbers continue to increase year on year, and obviously the wonderful Terminus exhibition has been a great addition to help achieve that. There's been a number of popular school holiday and other events held at our libraries throughout the year, and the Te Wakato Takaro play trailer was launched during the year as well. So the planning is underway to promote play at our pools and to prepare for the upcoming season. And I think, you know, a lot of that too is around understanding the implications of the new aquatic facility at the sports park. What does that mean for our facilities, and whether our facilities need to pivot, to use that word, around what the service offerings are as well. And obviously, to that picture that's on the screen, the portable pump track has been an absolute hit with kids in the parks that it's been located at around the district.
We have a question from Mayor Hazelhurst.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Local MP Anna Locke talked to me about some new funding for Mayor's Task Force for Jobs. So I'm going back a couple of slides, sorry, under career pathways. Could somebody please follow up and for us to understand how we can access and what that funding relates to, please,
yes,
as an action? Thank you.
Thank you. And a question from Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Chair. It's not actually a question, just a couple of comments. Being a dairy farmer myself, I couldn't help but notice the 9 rangatahi going out to a dairy farm and 3 finding positions. So congratulations for that. A couple of other things that really stood out for me. Yes, the Terminus exhibition at Art Gallery, a huge success and a huge increase in numbers. And also the library programs that have been activated during COVID, and the response to that has just been outstanding. So just wanted to make those comments. So a huge thanks to the team.
Thank you. And Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, I am going back one item. I've just had a brain epiphany. Councillor Dixon mentioned the Apple Trail, which I'm really excited to see, and the Big Apple project. The thing I just wanted clarity on, because I haven't been able to find it on the website, and I think it's really important given the intent behind it, was whether or not there's going to be a Big Apple out in Flaxmere, because I think that's really important that the official trail recognises the whole area. So I'm just wanting to check that that's included.
As far as I'm aware, Chair, there's more than one going out in that particular area.
Excellent. Can we get confirmation of that? I appreciate what Councillor Dixon said, but can we get confirmation that as part of the official trail, Flaxmere is going to be included?
I'll try and source that on Sunday.
Yeah, I also had a curiosity about it. I understand that in due course we'll divest ourselves of the apples. They're being sold off, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yes.
And that auction is during the Arts Festival. I think from memory about the 26th of October. That date could be wrong, but they're certainly going to be sold off to recompense.
So was there ever any thought given to keeping them? The reason I ask for that, I mean, I grew up not very far away from Morrinsville, who've actually turned their painted cows into a significant tourism feature. You know, people go to Morrinsville to see their amazing decorated cows. It just seemed a shame to me that we would get rid of them quite so quickly.
I think the initial thought around it was to establish a pool of funding so that we could do something permanent in a following year.
Right, okay. Okay, thank you.
And lastly, Madam Chair, just enhancing enhancing where we live, strategic priority area, and just to round all that out. So there have been, the new basketball courts were implemented in Flaxmere, Ron Georgie Park, and at Flaxmere. Multiple playground upgrades are in planning or are underway, and a big piece of work for the staff around the draft Frimley, Eastdale and Havelock Hills Reserve Management Plans is now out for consultation. The Tipahui Community Plan was finalised and presented to the community, and Councillor Kerr just talked about the meeting that was held earlier this week, and the Hastings has been accredited as a welcoming community, and a coordinator has been appointed, and so the Hastings multicultural strategy action is now being completed and worked on. So happy to take Any questions, Madam Chair? And, Mr. Thu's got
Thank you,
some.
Mr. Few.
Through you, Madam Chair, just on the reserve management plans, we've got our community days, so the draft Tainui Tana Taroa Hikanui Reserve, Keysans Grove, is at the Havelock Function Centre. The pop-in for the community on Saturday between 11 and 1. Sunday we've got Frimley at Frimley Primary School from 10:30 to 12:30, and then looking forward to it is from 2 o'clock through to 4 o'clock the Estelle session, which will be at Hukariri College. We're expecting a bit of noise at Estelle and potentially a little bit on the Havelock one. Initial feedback is there's a bit of push and play around the toilet, proposal for the toilet. But that's part of this process, and just making sure people lodge their thoughts, and then council, the new council, one of their first big jobs will be to go through all that consultation and make decisions.
Thank you for that. Now we have a recommendation on page 43. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Sholem, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Dixon. I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. Now that brings us to the end of our agenda, but I would just like to mention this is the final operations and monitoring meeting of this triennium, and I would like to give very great credit to our staff for their willingness to engage with this quite onerous process. I think I speak for councillors when I say how grateful we are to receive this level of detail, which greatly helps councillors in their role as a key liaison with their constituents. I am sure that our report can go on and grow in usefulness and strength, and I know it hasn't been a particularly easy task always, but I thank the staff for bearing with us, and in particular Craig Cameron and Louise and Bruce for their role in this. I think it has been great. Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I would just like to acknowledge your leadership of this particular standing committee. What we have to traverse within this one is huge, and I just wanted to say how much I appreciate, from my perspective, the way that you have disseminated the information and worked with the staff to do that, but also how you've taken on board and been receptive to feedback through this process. So I'd like to acknowledge your work on this as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a reminder, this report serves another purpose, and I think its main purpose. It's not so much about us being able to take this information out to our communities, but more about how we operate as governors of this very large organisation. This is the report that we use almost like directors of a board to make sure that we have the appropriate evidence and facts in front of us to make our decisions upon. So, yeah, I just reiterate the comments made before. Thanks, team.
Thank you, and I will end with a karakia. Kua mutu a mātou mahi, mō tēnei wā, manakitanga mai mātou katoa, o mātou hoa, o mātou whānau, ai all ki te aorangi. Our work is finished for the moment. Bless us all, our colleagues, our families. Peace to the universe. Thank you.